And why don't we start off with a quick look at the release notes for February Alma. What is it called? Knowledge. I'll share my screen in just a second. And there's not a lot here. I just wanted to point out one thing. And paste a link to the release notes. Let's see, let me share my screen. I guess that one, yeah, okay. And you can see this on your own screen if you follow that link in the chat. Oh, and I better sign in. Oh gosh, come on. Sorry, just a sec. I've got to log into Zoom, and I never remember my credentials. And unfortunately, my the Zoom login screen doesn't accept completion from my password manager, so it's kind of a pain. Okay. Really? All right, so now I'm logged in. All right, sorry. And are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. In the release notes for February, you can see the Alma documentation and enhancements is the thing worth noting, and I'd recommend that you watch this short video just so you're aware of what the changes are. It looks like there's some pretty good stuff. This video is only a couple of minutes long, so it's just a quick flyby of I wouldn't, it's not a, I wouldn't describe it as a re-engineering of the content by any means. Mainly it's if you watch the video, they're putting some focus on particularly in the how-to and section of the content, and some improvements they're making with more direct walkthroughs of tasks, and as they point out here, some workflow diagrams. And I was just poking around trying to find in the video, there's a couple of examples of those workflow diagrams, and those are actually quite useful. And they used to do more of those in the documentation. And some of my favorite ones I've lost links to over the years, and I don't know if they still exist in the documentation anywhere. There were particularly some good diagrams around electronic resources workflow, and I hope. And the ones in the video here look quite good. So I'm encouraged that I really like workflow diagrams to help kind of picture at a higher level the way something works. So that's, I think that's worth highlighting. And then a couple of things that, oh, just by the ways that I was doing some work over the weekend, and oh, let's do a different, just was reminded or re-looked at a couple of things that I think are useful that I'll point out. That I kind of have not followed as closely. One is, and I'm sharing the screen now on Centralia's Alma instance, but you can look at your own Alma instance. Just the announcement section gets populated with recent news, and there's good stuff in here for over kind of the holidays. It was empty, and if there's not new announcements coming out, it will kind of empty out, so you kind of get out of the habit of looking at it. But there's good stuff in here, like and it's an easy way to get top level info about changes or enhancements that you might miss, looking at more detailed documents like the release notes. For example, the change in the release cycle for Alma and Primo is discussed here. There's a change coming mid-year this calendar year where they're going to move to a quarterly updates for Alma and Primo versus the current monthly updates. And they'll still do monthly fixes, but feature updates will be on a quarter basis. So things like that. And then another thing that I kind of went down the rabbit hole on that I think is kind of interesting that I haven't used at all is the cloud app feature in Alma, which was introduced last year, I guess. I think a couple of you have used a couple of the cloud apps. The cloud apps are kind of like plugins, kind of like browser plugins, but they're for Alma, and Ex Libris has written some. Customers have written some, and there's a place in let's close that. See if I can get to, there we go. You've got to get started with cloud apps. I'm just going to show this really quickly. I don't remember where it is. There's a place you've got to enable cloud apps in your environment before you can install them, but it's pretty easy. Just go to Alma, just go to the configuration menus, just search for cloud apps and you'll find it. And then there's a place in here where you have to enable cloud apps. So that's it. And I was just before this meeting, I was looking at just I'm sure you can find it through numerous ways. I mean, Google is usually pretty fast. So Alma Cloud Apps, you can find the developers page where there are cloud apps that exist, and there's a bunch that I think people might find useful. Like and this is just random, but since this is a new one, it looked like copy user roles. I assume this allows you to copy roles from one user to another. This one I hadn't, I haven't really played with cloud apps myself, so but it looks like there's a number of them coming online now, so it's going to, it's kind of an interesting feature. And they're kind of, buyer beware. These are not, the cloud apps feature itself is supported by Ex Libris, but the individual cloud apps that people write, especially those that aren't written by Ex Libris, aren't officially supported. But something like the Orbis Cascade label printer, this caught my eye just because it was Orbis just because it's the Alliance. But a little app that you can run inside of Alma to create a spine label. And I don't know if this grabs data out of the record or what, but just kind of interesting. There is, download a single bib, if you needed to download a MARC record, I guess, for a single title, that there's that. Multiple item edit. This one I thought was, to me, kind of interesting. I'd like to look at this at some point and see what they're actually doing here. CSV user load. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff. It's kind of a way for people to add their own features. Things that one customer finds useful that a lot of others may find useful, but it's not such a pervasive need that it gets rolled into the product or something, but just something to be aware of. And then what else? I think there was one other thing that I had just been, was it in? No, I think that's it. And I looked at the Primo release notes for February. I didn't really see anything worth bringing up there. I don't think that's worth any discussion at all. And so we can dive into the chat here. So Amy asks, if you have time today, can you remind me if it's possible to run a title overlap analysis of one electronic collection compared to all electronic collections at your library? I'd like to know what unique ProQuest Research Library is bringing to the table. Where are the, let's see, just for myself, I'm going to, where is it? There we go. That's a little easier to see on this monitor. The overlap analysis should be under resources, right? Overlap and collection analysis. I always found this a bit odd. They say submit to start a new report. You've got to say submit new report. So you want to compare, let's see. One electronic collection to all clicks. So let's see. So the set comparison compares the source electronic collection, which would work for you with one or more target electronic collections. Each title in the source collection is compared with a deduplication of titles. Let's see. I don't know. The question is, do you want to compare? Let's see. You want to take the source collection.
I guess that's one of the things I don't appreciate about Alma compared to when we had serial solutions. In serial solutions, you could compare very easily one database to the rest of your collection to see what was unique within your own collection. And it just seems so much more complicated in Alma. So you put in your.
So the source code, I mean, in this case, I just picked ABI Inform, and then if you wanted to compare that to things in your institution zone, then
Can you only have one source? Like, could I put ABI Inform and ProQuest Research Library and have two sources? But I'm
yeah,
thinking you.
yeah, I believe it allows that. So there I've got two. So now I've got two source collections, and then I'd have to select my target collections. And I don't know if it lets you just say, I just want to compare with everything in the institution.
Yeah, I couldn't find that this morning. It looked like you had to add. Yeah, you can only have one source.
Oh, you
And
can only
then-
have, yeah.
For the target collection, I just had to go through and add everything I could think of.
Yeah, okay, so you can't. Oh, I went too far. Oh, where is it? Let's see. Oh, I see, yeah. So here you could use the second one to kind of achieve what you want to do. You would just create, oh, but I see you'd have to create a managed set of the titles, and like if you wanted to compare multiple titles in you would have to create like a list of all the portfolios you wanted, or all the electronic titles you wanted to compare. I guess you would have, no, you wouldn't use this one, no. I don't know, does anybody have any suggestions? I mean, I don't think there's a one button solution for this.
Yeah, that's what I remember from the past, was that it wasn't easy like it used to be in Serial Solutions, which bugs me because they own Serial Solutions. So I'm not sure why they can't improve this product. But
And let's see, is there I don't remember what's in. Yeah, that would be. I'm trying to. I don't know if I've done it in analytics before or not. I'd have to do more thinking about it. Kind of what's the use case, Amy? You don't know whether to keep up.
well, after the state library contracted with Gale for the state contract, we ended up going with ProQuest on our own, and the renewal is coming due. And I am trying to fight chopping ProQuest. And one of the ways I'd like to do that is to show how much unique content it is. We cut our print periodicals based on availability in ProQuest and EBSCOhost. So that's the scenario.
I'm just capturing that in chat for the recording. The Excel formula VLOOKUP. I mean, one hackish way to do it is just grab all of the like ISSN, EISSNs from analytics for the stuff you currently have. And then, I mean, you can use VLOOKUP. There's going to be different ways to do it, but like just compare two lists, the list of ISSNs from ProQuest with a list of ISSNs from everything else you have, and then find the difference. That's and you could get you could get a unique list of the ID numbers for what you currently have.
With that, the one about select titles, could I create a set of all the titles in a collection and then compare that to the rest of my collection?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, can you go to the ABI inform and there's a feature there to select all of the portfolios and export those portfolios. So you'd have those in an export file, but I don't know what type of export file Alma wants for the collection analysis, but that might be a way to go.
Yeah, you could.
It's not clear what the file should look like, if it's ISSNs or MMSI.
Well, if we just do help for this
Right.
page, I imagine it'll tell us. I don't remember. It's probably.
It said ISSN there.
Yeah, there's actually a video here, I guess, that shows.
Electronic collection overlap analysis using input file. So in the December 2014.
Yeah, I just pasted a link to that. Oh, yeah, and it's pretty old. It's December 14th, 2014. So that's kind of it, but it's probably the same basic. The screens might look different. Just have a quick. Oh yeah, the Excel file must be a single column file, and the column heading, so it can be ISBN, ISSN, also, so that's what it is.
Okay, I can take a look at that and mess around a bit.
Yeah,
Maybe report back.
And then if you grab those and, oh yeah, so, well, the problem is if you grab those out of a collection you already have activated and compare that to what you have, it's going to be, the overlap should be 100% because you've got all those things. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of.
Yeah, so your output isn't going to be by electronic collection. It's almost like you'd need to do it the opposite way, compare everything in your collection to just ProQuest. Yeah, right. What we really need to do is isolate from the collection, the database.
Actually, yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head, Amy. You could use the first form of the comparison, set comparison, select the source electronic collection as your ProQuest collection. The target electronic collections are your Gale collections, and then that would tell you the overlap between Gale and ProQuest. That's mainly what.
Well, and all of our EBSCO databases and Science Direct and JSTOR. Like, I want to know what we have unique in ProQuest compared to everything. But yeah, I could just keep adding databases if there's not a limit.
Yeah, if we, let's see, if we institutions on, or doesn't. Yeah, so it's selected. So it's selected a bunch. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's. Yeah, so I just selected 20 pretty quickly, right? So that's probably the way to do it. I mean, it's a little fiddly. You can't select all of your, if you just went through and did searches like Gale, selected all of those, search by EBSCO, select all of those.
Okay, that's what I had been starting to do,
Yeah.
but then it was 10 o'clock and I thought I would just ask because I wasn't sure if I was on the right track or not.
No, that's a good discussion. And that will give you, that will give you what you're looking for. Just be sure not to select the ProQuest collection down at the bottom. And I guess and you can only select one in the source collection. So that's kind of a. Come on, so let's see. SQL training. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that. What do you think about doing, Abby? What's the context of the question? Oh, I see. Help a lot with analytics. Yeah. Most of this SQL stuff in analytics that you can do is pretty limited. I mean, the way I do it typically is to. How can I do this? I don't even know what this is. Let's do that. And then if you do a filter and then you convert it to SQL, and then you can see the kind of, I mean, you can sort of start, you can create examples of advanced SQL statements that you want to use on particular fields and get some knowledge that way. But yeah, just as background knowledge, I mean, SQL is pretty applicable to metadata management in general. Since SQL is all about structured data, querying structured data, right? SQL stands for structured query language. So and I'm just looking at chat. Yeah, and Nicole's just echoing what we saw as we did our little exercise. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, the couple other things I mentioned in my email yesterday about today's meeting were other questions that were in the air. Oh, one was about discussion about easy proxy hosting. Another was about OCLC reclamation project, and I think both. And I'm referring to the recent offer that came around from OCLC about a one-time, doing a one-time update of your holdings in WorldCat just to improve accuracy. And I know Abby was at Watcom was looking at that. Melinda, were you guys looking at that at Spokane? And I don't know if either of you have, or anybody else has.
I've submitted our applications for the thing. And so one thing I immediately found out is that once you submit your request to participate in this project, you have 2 weeks to gather your MARC records to send them into OCLC. But the emails that I was supposed to get about the fact that the application had been received got caught in the spam filter. And we didn't find out until 2 weeks after the notice had been sent out, but I think we're good now. I have some questions. I'm not sure it's really a reclamation project. I need to find out more. It almost sounds like from the stuff I've gotten so far that they'll attach holdings to things that are currently in your catalog, but they didn't mention anything about removing holdings from records that you don't send them. So I'm going to get a clarification on that.
Yeah, thanks, Kirsty. Yeah, and I don't think the okay, so yeah, I just wanted to pull up the original message. I'm just going to paste it. It might be a little hard to read on the screen, so I'm just going to fill chat with nonsense. Get this copied.
I'll put in the chat the email address that people should make sure they whitelist if they want to participate in this holdings update program.
No, I get it. I don't know why. Yeah, so and for what it's worth, I've got the email on the screen. And again, I'll try to I'll copy the meeting notes if I can't get it in chat. I don't know if it's too big or. But yeah, when I say reclamation, oh, there we go. Yeah, okay, so I just got it. Oh, no, I didn't. But now I've got it in chat. So you can read that what's in chat. This was the message about the offer. Yeah, what I mean, I'm saying reclamation project. I don't think it says it. Reclamation project is what they used to call this effort, where basically in a reclamation project, OCLC just removes your holding from anything in WorldCat and just starts fresh by you sending them everything you currently have that you want represented in WorldCat, and it's just like a total reset. This is, you can update WorldCat. Oh yeah, so yeah, it says removes inaccurate WorldCat holdings, Kirsty. So
Okay,
sounds
good.
like it is basically a reclamation. Adds holdings, removes holdings. And I sort of gloss over. I mean, I always think of WorldCat as bib records, title records. I mean, there's a whole thing about, holdings, symbols on holdings as opposed to titles, like journal issues. And that's sort of a little specialty within WorldCat, at least in my impression. So when I think about this, I really just think about title records, and I think you guys typically do too. But I just remember doing this kind of project in the past OCLC would start asking about, some of the forms that you fill out or questions they ask have to do with setting holdings on holdings records, which I don't think you'd really want. And then Kirsty or Abby or anyone else, and I know Abby, it seems like you were doing this and you're very new to Alma, and it seemed like you were managing export of bib records. Seems like you figured it out pretty quickly. So exporting bib records in
Yeah,
Alma is
it was
fairly easy. Go ahead.
it was fairly straightforward. I had done this a long time ago when the process was much more complicated. One thing I did forget, and Chrissy is right, the turnaround is really pretty quick, but you do need to kind of crosswalk the delivered or the report that the export in Alma. And I use a tool called MarkEdit. I don't know if there are others out there, but they expect a .mrc file, a MARC file, and the one that comes out of Alma is XML. That's just a caveat that I think I'd add in.
Oh, can you not select the?
You can export bib records as in .mrc format.
It probably because I'm just new. I didn't see the
maybe-
drop down, like it only had XML or binary for me.
No, it's
Binary is MARC. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, shoot. All right.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's a little, that's a funny vocabulary era. Yeah. They're both technically correct, but it's, they should just say MARC instead of binary in the interface. It's complete. And where is the export again? Is it in, oh, I'm in, that's what, you want, is it it's a publishing profile, right? Yeah, publish bibliographic records.
No,
No, it was an export.
yeah, and it's kind of hidden and
I
not
just like
all
searched
that
for the word
easy to
export.
find.
That's. Oh wait, no, not there. Is it actually in configuration? Is it here?
Oh, I don't.
I don't know if I've done it, but it's been a while.
I think I just exported bibliographic records. I didn't use we don't have a publishing profile set up with OCLC to regularly send them.
Yeah.
So I just exported the bibliographic records and then just and then crosswalked them, which I didn't need to do. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, well, I looked this up. Oh, it's just a job. Oh, yeah, you create a set of records. Yeah, of course. You just create a managed set of titles. And then
Yeah, so we did our
then you just
physical titles.
Yeah, and then you run a export, and then export bibliographic records. Exactly. Yeah, and then and go ahead, Abby. I think you were about to hit a good point about which titles you want to select.
Right. So we chose to still send, for various institutional reasons, to send our course reserve records, bib records. I think that was, just one particular set that we needed to think through the pros and cons of adding them from ILL perspectives, I think mostly, but otherwise we just kind of sent the lot, and we're looking forward to having a refresh because I think it's been a while since we've done it.
Yeah, and one good way, the point is to, if you're sending records to OCLC like this, you want to only include those that you want actually for your symbol to appear on in WorldCat. So if that's not course reserves, then you want to make sure not to include those in your files, or if you don't want to include, you don't want to include your equipment records, stuff like that. So you can sort of weed those out by just creating sets that include the things that you want to add your symbol on. Yeah, Lynn, I don't know about limits for the managed sets. Oh, and then access, we have 33,000. Yeah, exactly, Kirsty. It's like it's a big enough number that we generally don't have to worry about it. And then there was something I wanted to mention. Oh, with the crosswalk. Tell me about that. Explain that a little bit.
Was that me?
Yeah, I mean, Kirsty or Abby or anyone somebody mentioned. Oh yeah, you have to crosswalk the. Right. We were just talking
That was
about.
my mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that binary meant like when you go to export your bib holdings, the choice of binary is actually going to export a mark file. So I used a separate wonderful program to do that, but
yeah,
easier.
Oh, and that's a good point, Kara Beth, that if you have, adding your tag for ebook central permanent titles. I'm not sure what that means for. I always think of adding your symbol on a title in WorldCat for, exposes it to ILL. And I don't know how that would work for ebooks, but I think there's ways in OCLC that you can mark titles that, or at least within Iliad, it's possible to configure different ways to suppress ILL on certain titles. I don't know if you can do that in WorldShare.
I don't think you can, but if you're using local, what are they called? Local data holdings records, I think there are ways that you can indicate if something is requestable via ILL or not requestable via ILL.
And I think,
but I don't know details.
and I mean, kind of on the question of ebooks and ILL, there was there's I thought I had come across it on the Orbs Cascade Alliance page. I'll have to find a link and I'll put it in the notes. It's sort of an aside on the e-resource ILL. I know the Alliance signed one of these general agreements put out by one of the governing bodies about, here it is. Excuse me. Board endorses controlled digital lending for ILL. So there's an official kind I mean, this might be old news, but it's sort of related to Spokane, since Melinda over there and those guys in Spokane were part of WIN, which was hosted at Gonzaga. Gonzaga is now joining the Alliance, but maybe everybody's already heard that. Yeah, this controlled digital lending for ILL is sort of making more official. And let's see, I don't know who the sort of supporting body of this agreement is, but a bunch of the big organizations have signed on, or I guess controlled digital lending is the org, and just sort of trying to codify the ability to do ILL with electronic resources, since that's kind of a, and maybe it's, I don't know if the Creative Commons is the supporting body, but anyways, that's sort of an aside, but kind of a, that's always been such a gray area, at least in my mind. And then, hosting of easy proxy, and I had sort of in the back of my mind been thinking about easy proxy alternatives, not to any great extent, but it kind of came up. A lot of you have discussed moving your locally hosted easy proxy to hosted easy proxy, which is a jump in price, but it makes it easier to manage. And a number of you have done that. And I think Shoreline has been asking about that, and probably a couple others. And there's never been a lot of alternatives to do what easy proxy does, but there are a couple that are out there. Open Athens, and there was just a thread on Alma L. Just the last couple of days that I asked a couple questions on. I mean, Open Athens is probably the best alternative to easy proxy. It basically does the same thing, but it uses your campus authentication instead of, it uses your campus authentication just like easy proxy, and it's hosted just like easy proxy, but it uses open standards, and it does require more modern systems of authentication, which a lot of the schools use, but not all of them. And it requires support. It requires support on the vendor side. So the vendors have to kind of be Open Athens aware, which easy proxy doesn't have any pre-requirements, really. It doesn't, for the most part, it doesn't care about the vendor. Open Athens, the vendor has to be built to be able to support an Open Athens like platform. So that's, and I was on a private email thread with the fellow who posted to Alma L, and he mentioned that Open Athens was more expensive than easy proxy hosting. So it's, but it gets you off the OCLC if that's a long-term goal, because it's not an OCLC product. It's in some ways it's more robust. Another one that, and so somebody mentioned Okta. Okta is Okta or Okta. I think I always say Okta, but I believe they say Okta. OKTA is the authentication platform that a lot of schools are putting in, and that would be Open Athens supportable. And there's another thing that's out there that I don't know a lot about, but there's this sort of,
Real quick, so on Okta, isn't it a statewide, the state board has a contract with Okta and they're rolling it out to all the community and technical colleges as sort of an addendum to CTC Link?
But it's not, it's still school by school. It's not like there's not a single Okta instance. It's the way I understand it, it's something you can buy if you want, and some schools aren't buying it. But anyways, it's sort of, I probably don't know enough to talk about it with any great authority about what's going on with that project. But my understanding is that SBCTC sponsored a or negotiated pricing, and schools can sign up for it if they want to, but it's still, your Okta is your Okta, not anyone. I mean, it's kind of like the way Alma's set up now. But anyways, just another alternative to easy proxy is this. This LIRN kind of buying consortium. I don't know what I would call this. It's a library consulting group that has been around a while now. Their membership is mostly kind of special libraries. I mean, they do a lot of like faith affiliated institutions, for-profit institutions. So it's not a traditional nonprofit higher ed kind of, I mean, and you can look at their schools, but the reason I mention this is they do have a proxy service that's included in their membership, like their annual membership base membership is $1,000 a year, and this is all published info. And one of their basic services is this proxy service that they offer. That I don't know if it's something they wrote themselves or the Learn proxy. And I'm pasting some of these links in chat just to grab them for the meeting notes. But for what it's worth, there is there's one. Yeah, this was the caveat. Yeah, there's an authentication mechanism built into Canvas called LTI. Right, I didn't realize this. Excuse me. Yeah, when I was looking at this last week, kind of when this question came up, I thought, well, I mean, don't we have any alternatives to the easy proxy yet, or is this just a captured market? And this is the out of the box way to use the Learn proxy is through Canvas authentication. So that's a big caveat on this. And then if you're not using Canvas authentication, you'd have to, go through configuration. And I mean, this is where it gets kind of tricky because you have to have libraries should have really tight relationships with IT and ongoing conversations, but reality is that that's not the case. And anything like this, it's going to require any kind of integration between the library systems and campus systems. It's going to get sticky, and it looks like they'll support other authentication platforms, but it's going to cost you, and that's going to get hard to support. So it's probably the case that easy proxy is for smaller libraries like ours is probably still the best solution in terms of functionality. Open Athens is another one that's going to require, it probably require more IT attention than easy proxy, at least to get started. And then also to deal with those vendors that don't support Open Athens. Easy proxy is probably still the simplest. The downside to me is that, it ties you to OCLC as a vendor, and it seems pricier than it should be, but Lynn, to your question, Lynn from Bellingham has a question, goes back to the earlier discussion about the OCLC reclamation stuff. I don't see there's any particular reason not to do it. Just time and effort, I guess, would be the main one. And if you're not really using WorldCat for anything, then I guess that would be another reason. Meaning, or if you're not using WorldCat to advertise your collection, or I'm not sure how, technically, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I believe the OCLC agreements with libraries require libraries to keep their holdings up to date, whatever that means. I don't know how much they police that. So I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, but I mean, I don't have any specific reasons why you wouldn't want to do it, other than time and effort again.
Thanks, Wade. I'm wondering, if I'm adding my holdings with all my bib records that I'm getting from OCLC, and I'm deleting holdings from OCLC with all the records that I withdraw from our collection. I mean, I would just assume that my work has a degree of accuracy, and why would I need to take on this other project?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess that would be another reason not to do it, is if you don't need to do it, right? If you're already accurate, then yeah, then obviously you don't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you've been there for a really long time and you know that your work has been good, then it doesn't make sense. In our case, we've got probably something like 10 years worth of deletions that never got reported to OCLC. So
Okay.
before
And it's sort of,
there.
and sort of a callback to the question that Amy asked about doing collection comparisons. I don't know. There must be a way to export, like at least export a list of the OCLC numbers from WorldCat that you have your symbol on, and then you could do a comparison to, I mean, it seems like there would be a way to do your own comparison between WorldCat and what you have locally. I don't know if there's not a nice, simple workflow for doing it, but there must be a way that you could just check that.
Well, there's in the what is it? The World Share Collection Management Platform.
Yeah.
Allows you to create reports of changes that get made to records that have your holdings attached. Like it might. As part of that, I think like the first time you run the report, I think it would let you export all of the bib records for everything that has your holdings attached, and then do sort of regular maintenance at that point.
Well, thank you for your comment, Kirsty, because I have been the only cataloger at the library since it opened about 26 years ago. And I'm still the only cataloger.
So yeah, so your holdings are probably in really good shape in OCLC.
Well, it's something to take into consideration when thinking about, proceeding with this project or not. Yeah, thanks.
Maybe somewhere, and I'm just going to capture this link too. Maybe somewhere there's a way to grab all your data, and then you could just do your own comparison. It would just be sort of an interesting exercise. Anyways, I guess we're at time, so we can go ahead and wrap up there. I know it looks like a couple of people have already left. So thanks very much, everyone. I hope that was a productive meeting. After I get a chance to put together some meeting notes and the recording, I'll circulate out a link.